So then we get into the breakdown of what the project is again here. Kind of just saying again, it would be an 8.5 by 11 size, but yet you can even put more than one page built in there. Now, those some second page or third page may not print, but they're designed for the interactive side. But if you need to print or someone wants to print that resume, they can print it as just a single page resume. So let's go ahead and jump on over to InDesign a second. And I've got this file open, just ignore it right now because this is kind of some of the stuff I'm going to talk about here. But the basic elements of Adobe InDesign here is just like we've seen with other software, we've got windows and workspaces. So you see, I'm just using the essentials here. There's even one here called Interactive for PDF. There's one here called for digital publishing. And that just means that depending on what workspace you're in, certain options are visible or not. So it actually looks very similar, believe it or not, guys, to Adobe Illustrator. Kind of the origination of InDesign was Adobe Illustrator, and it does deal with vector graphics and so on. You can see here by even the color palette being a fill or a stroke, and some of the basic tools of containers and pens and so on. Over to the right, we've got things like properties, which will show you the property of whatever we have selected here. And you're going to notice that a lot of times what we're dealing with these different things, the properties are involved with, again, is it a button, which is what this little icon of the dotted green and white says, hey, I'm a button, and you can go into the details of what that does. Or is it a container that's holding text, basic paragraph, your font, your choice of font, and so on. So up along the top here, you see we've got our window settings. We have our view settings. These are things like your zoom in, zoom outs, your proofread capabilities. All this is there. We can create tables. We're probably not going to create any tables for this particular project, but you can imagine if you've seen like online forms, whether it be, I don't know, if you're on Amazon or if you're ordering from a website, even ordering a pizza, they create tables there that allow you to do like how many of something you want to buy or order, putting in your subtotal, all that, your cost and everything. Again, it's something that you can build here inside of InDesign. Objects are what we deal with, right? So objects are the individual pieces that make up the document. And you can see there's even here one where, again, I said a QR code we can create, fitting objects, fitting proportionally inside of a container. I'll discuss that in greater detail. We've got our basic type tools here. We got basic layout tools on how we're going to see how many pages we're working with. Basic editing elements like cut, copy, paste, undo, duplicate. Basic Adobe options like we've seen in many other software packages. And then finally over here under the file is where we get file, new, all that. And I'm going to start with file, new, document, just like we would have done in any other Adobe project. Now, once we're in the new document, you see it looks quite similar to what we've seen in the past, right? And we've got saved formats. We've got for print, for web, for mobile. But what we're going to do here, of course, because we're doing this as an 8.5 by 11 for print resume, I can select that there, and you see we get letter, legal, tabloid. And if I come over here and just double check, instead of picas or points, I switch to inches, you see that the default letter is an 8.5 by 11. I can actually give it an initial title here. I'll just call this, we'll say Fall 2021 resume, right? Some initial name. You can see we can do the orientation of vertical or horizontal. Because we're doing this for print, and if the people want to print the resume, it should be a vertical 8.5 by 11, not a horizontal. You can see I could do multiple pages if I want to. I'm only doing one right now because I want to just demonstrate one page. But next week, I will go over again, what if we want to do a multi-page resume where we could even have page 2 have a gallery, for example, or page 3 have, I don't know, an animation that you could hyperlink to, but then those page 2 and 3 are not printable because they would not, you don't want them to print. And then of course, there's elements here for things like columns and margins and bleed. This is all just print language. Bleed is typically, again, when you print anything on a normal printer, you always get that white border around it. But in the real professional printing world, you may not want that white border. And that just means that you're allowing for a bleed of your colored background to go all the way to the edge. Here I could just hit create. And you see we get the default. It's even got its margin already put in, which is this purple guide. And now we can start thinking about propagating what we need to put in here. This is where I'm going to borrow this right now. Just copy that. Paste it in here. Move it off to the outer edge because we really don't need. Okay. So even though we're putting documents and information on the outside of this, it does not save it in the document. And that's again true of any artboard-based Adobe package like Illustrator, that only what's on the artboard itself is what is saved or available. So some things we need to think about when it comes to resumes, right? Layout, colors or your palette choices, what fonts do you want to use? Basic common design aesthetic elements here, where again, just because we have all the colors in the world doesn't mean we should use every color. It should be easy to read, and it should be better than just black and white. Also, the same thing goes with fonts. You don't want to use fancy fonts. You don't want to use fonts that are unprofessional. You don't want to use fonts that are difficult to read over and based on their color and design. So you've got to think about this when it comes to the designing process. So design element. Then we need to think about the content of what's going in here. Now, typical resume is supposed to provide information of you. So this could be something as simple as a profile picture or a logo if you're creating a resume for, say, your own photo studio or something like that. You're going to obviously need your name and title, meaning you are your name. What are you? Filmmaker? Are you a digital photographer? Are you a designer? What is UI UX designer? What that title is that you're applying for, or what job title you consider what you're prepared to step into. Usually you don't want to put something like, oh yeah, well, I'm an actor, but you're applying for a job in graphic design, obviously. And then of course you need to provide your contact information, phone number, email, website if you have it. Again, your address often enough, especially if you're going to be working remote. Oftentimes people need to know, well, how remote are you? Are you in the same city at least? So all the necessary contact information. And then there's a lot of different things that we can include in here to then provide the information necessary to who you are to your potential employer. You can put an about, or you can put a mission statement, or you can put objective, meaning, hi, my name is, but it's a written form. I come hitting the ground with lots of skills over whatever, so many years, or I'm recent graduate looking for an entry-level position, just that basic, almost like a small version of a cover letter. Then you put your experience, where have you worked in the past, and how it applies to the position you're applying for, examples of your education. And again, that could be high school, but very rarely it just basically means if you don't have much more than an undergrad or what associate's degrees or certifications you have, you can put the educational element there. Now, I like to split my skills and my software into two different categories because software, those are just the tools you know how to use, but the skills are things like communicates well, multitasker, team leader, ability to work alone or with a group, those actual job skills. Software is just your software knowledge, Windows, PC, Adobe packages, Autodesk, whatever, different computer programming languages. What is your software skill sets? And then you can include your links. So again, those are your social sites, your LinkedIn, your YouTube, anything that is basically a professional, or it kind of says like you're basically doing here, guys. Why am I including all this? And why are we now putting this into a resume? Is because You want to tell the potential employer, here is everything you need to know about me. Whatever you do, here is my links. Here is where I want to direct you. What I don't want you to do is Google me and find all the stuff I don't want you to see. It's a very important thing nowadays when it comes to this. The more information you direct them to go look at, the less likely they are to go down the rabbit hole and find things about you they don't want to see. So you don't want them having to literally search you in LinkedIn, literally search you in YouTube, literally search you in Facebook. Give them the icon and the link to take them where you want them to go. And it's just a better practice and it's just more professional. And then of course you can even, like I say, you can put this video resume in there, just a little video that explains, hi, my name is. Now, starting with that list right there, what am I basing that list upon? Well, let's look at a job. Let's just pick a job here and let's just say Adobe, I'll just say something, Illustrator artist needed, right? Where am I getting all this information from? Well, if we go to like Indeed, here's one in St. Petersburg, Illustrator artist, go to a job and look and see what are they looking, ideal candidates, kickstart career, gamers welcome, blah, 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 time, what are they offering? Now that's not a very good one. Let me see if I can find a better one. I'm looking for one that gives examples of, what the job description is, essential job functions. These would be your skills, right? And then they'll get into, what software is needed. They'll get into what experience they're looking for. So typically what you need to put in a resume is what these people put in the job post. So what are your responsibilities? Those are, again, the skills. You must submit samples of your past design. Well, we can put samples like portfolios and links to things we've done. The requirements of it, that includes things like your education level, your knowledge, what skills your software skills. So typically you can find the information that you need to put into a resume in the actual job description. Let's see, video, just say video need. Videographer is what I wanted to say, videographer, filmmaker, right? Look at the job descriptions for videographer. Again, there's going to be about the position. There will be responsibilities. There'll be additional responsibilities. There'll be technical qualifications. Again, your software, your knowledge of the actual videography industry and the tools, skills and knowledge. Again, that's part of your experience and education. So you can see here a little bit about where you get that information I was describing in when it comes to this information that you need. And again, I said, you don't have to be super talented and have this huge, really in-depth resume. I'm not grading you necessarily on the content of the resume as much as the use of the interactivity and the design and the delivery of the interactive resume, just like I've graded on past assignments. I didn't grade you on your videos you chose or your photos you chose. I graded on what did you do with that. All right, so good thing to know. Now, let's start out with basic elements of layout, color palette, and font. Well, this is where we can come up with what I've shown you in the past, going back to both Photoshop and with Illustrator, is find yourself a color. Okay, so a color palette, and it could be anything. Let's say shell, and do an image search. Find a photograph, find that photograph, right? And you can choose your colors from from a photo. Use your color picker. Now, getting into that, watch what I'm going to do here. Okay, by the way, we still have layers as well. So what I'm going to start off with is a place of a photo. Now, where am I going with this? Well, just like I've shown you before in my folder, my Exploration of Media Tools folder, I have a folder for InDesign, okay? And I can go in here let's use this, why not? And I just grab a photo and click and drag. Now, this is a great example of even if I was going to use a profile pic, that by default, let's see, where's it at? I'm looking for view, that the screen mode by default in InDesign is set to normal. I'm sorry, display performance is set to typical. You'll notice when I put that photo in there, it's very pixelated and simplified. Well, that is because InDesign is designed for building catalogs, right? Building magazines, books, all this stuff. Well, when you're dealing with 200 pages or 100 pages of high quality, photo ready, camera ready photos, it can get very, very heavy on your computer, right? Eat up all your RAM. So the display here, even though it looks pixelized, the display performance, if I say high quality, you see it actually is the high quality. It's just that it's set by default to typical to save RAM. Now, again, I could always go back and play around with that. I'll go high quality display here. And now I'm ready to think about what my resume colors could be just by grabbing and snagging. Now, I'm just going to grab a little box here, right? Grab my eyedropper tool. You see, I actually had to hold it down to get my eyedropper, and I'm going to pick color for my resume. Okay. Just that one color, blue. Now, if you recall, back in Photoshop and Illustrator, I justified why we use a photograph to choose our color palette is because these colors already are designed to work in nature, so we don't have to guess our colors. Trying to get something that's a little on the darker side there. There we go. So even there, I've been able to pick 4 colors to choose for my palette. I can even select these colors here, double click that color palette here, and add a red, green, blue swatch, which now if I go to my properties and I go to fill, you'll see it actually added that swatch at the very bottom here. So I can actually add my swatches that I need without having to keep my color palette window open. Okay, so I can do that. Again, just to show you again, add RGB swatch, double click, add RGB swatch, double click, add RGB swatch, so that now if I ever need to change a color, I've got them all loaded up right here, ready to go. It's 4 color values. Okay? So I don't have to go searching or eyedropping or anything else. Now we're going to talk about, now that we've got the color palette kind of thought out, and we could still change that. Remember, I want to have light on dark and dark on light. So I might actually have to find another version of a color that's darker or lighter than what I have here. For example, this orange might need to be much lighter, so I could have the orange over blue or dark, because you want light on dark and dark on light. Now, something else to think about. Say creative design resume. This is now where we think about different layout designs, okay? And you can see tons of variations of very creative, interactive, or creative layouts for resumes, not that typical boring layout of just black text on a white background. Because now we can use things, things like we've studied, things like icons, things like graphics, things like, again, more interesting design than just the boring typical. You see, there's a lot of cool different, ways that people are designing their resumes now because of, again, the digital technology that's there. So here you have another interesting design. Some of these are photo driven. Some of them are design driven. Here's a very cool one here. You see where it's just a cool design element to it all. especially if we're going to use icons and interactive buttons and what. So I can start to think about a basic layout. Now I'm going to come here, like I said, and I'm in layer 1. I could come here and even, actually, let me go ahead and add a new layer, layer 2. I'm going to call layer 2 background. It's really important to have your layers, just like with other Adobe packages, separate so that we can then do everything here, like I'll eventually show you, where you can animate all your assets, animate on screen. So what I'm going to do here, just to start, is I'm just going to give myself an interesting little panel here. Properties, fill, and choose. No, maybe I'll choose the orange. Okay, now I'm going to come here, grab this, make another, because remember, the artboard actually has no color. It's transparent. So I need to create something like that. Okay, so there is my background layout. I'm trying to think if that's, there we go. Some here tells me I wasn't fully, there we go. I don't know why I'm getting that black outline. That might just be a graphic they've designed. So I've got my basic layout for my background. Let's go ahead, lock that layer for now. Let's go ahead and add a new layer, double click this. And now we can put things like our contacts or other elements of our layout. I'm going to separate this into what I have here, name, profile pic, and contact information. Okay, so I'll just call this pic, name, contact. Now, when we create these things that I've got, that I'm creating here, this is similar to what we were doing with an Illustrator, like I said, which is a vector container. So everything goes into a vector container. For example, this picture of this bird here, you see, I just expanded it this big, but I did not change the size of my picture. That is because when we put stuff in, whether it's text, whether it's graphics, whether it's an icon or something, it gets placed into a container or a vector shape. If I need to change the size of what's in that container, I have to double click it, you see, and now I can affect that which is in the container. So I can scale it up, but it's still inside the container. The best example I give in this is no different than when you put a picture into your, let's say, Facebook profile. You drop a picture in the Facebook profile, the container is round, and you typically then have to go back and move your picture around. So if you take a picture that's vertical and you then just put it in there, when you look at the profile pic in that round container, you basically just have a picture of your chest because you have not moved or navigated it inside that container of a circle. So similarly, we can do that here. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with profile pic here. Okay. And I'm going to choose an ellipse tool. Okay. Now, for some reason, it put it in layer 1, which I didn't want it. I want it here. So this is object, arrange. There. Come on. Object, arrange. Oh, you didn't do that. Let's just drag it in. Okay, now I have it in the right layer. Let me go ahead and lock that layer there. So again, lock your layers so you put things where they belong. Now you can see this is right here. Now, how do we put a picture in there? Well, let's say here's my profile pic, right? Well, this circle I created is my container. And so I can add my picture to that container. Double click, And now I can scale it, or I can do these fitting exercises. So fit content proportionally, fit framed content, fit content to frame. Well, the frame is the container. So if I do that, you see it fits in that container properly. So we've already got a quick little example here of a profile pic, which again, you can make your adjustments, or it could even be a logo. Believe it or not, you can even put a GIF animation in there. I've done that before where, what the heck, let's show you here what we're talking about. Let me go back to here. You can put animations, you can put GIFs. Oh, there's nothing in there right now. I'll just use a sample GIF here, and let's just put, watch this, okay? And the cool part is that GIF, when it's an interactive element, will actually play. It won't play here because we're in InDesign. I have to do a test to see it play. But it's cool that you can actually embed animations and so on, like an animated logo, for example, into your file. I'm just going to leave profile pic here, okay? Now I'm going to think about my layout design of my other information. And to do that, I'm going to come here to my type tool, and I'm going to draw a box here. Maybe make it a little bit smaller here. And I now have made a text box container that I can now start thinking about my name and title. So my name, and I'll put a title here. Let's see, multimedia designer, something simple. Go ahead and zoom in on that so we can see it. Okay, so this is my initial text box. I can highlight this, but now I need to think about things like the layout and design. Center justification. Choosing an easy to read font. Okay, so even though we've got all these fancy fonts to choose from, the purpose is to have it be legible, easy to read. Let's see, and usually I just stick to things like Arial or something like that. Nothing too big, nothing too chunky, nothing too, scribbly or handwritten. I kind of like that right there. So rinse will be one font, and I'll do impact maybe underneath of it. I can go on up here and say, how big do I want my title to be? Let's make that be a little bit less. And of course, hit the fill here, and it gives me fill for my font. Well, I'm doing the colors that I've chosen already. And now I see that font. I don't really like rinse. Let's just make something that's a little bit bolder. Now you'll notice if I go too big, it's going to jump the text out of there. What's my fill going to be? See what that looks like. Do that. Zoom out a little. And you see how I'm starting to design this inside that container. Now remember, that container is, see, I can make it smaller or larger. But if I go to make it smaller like this, it's going to take away my text because I now need to resize what I've done there. If I want to affect underneath, I double click. Okay. So just getting started here. And I still think that this is just too chunky of a font. I'll go with Arial Round. All right, so I've got my name. Come here, maybe make it a little bit larger. Nice, big, bold, easy to read. And now I need to think about what other elements are in this first section of profile pic. Name, title and contact information. So to do that, I'm just going to come here and grab another T. And inside there, I'm going to put the necessary elements of your contact information, which would be phone. Look at this. I can even use my eyedropper here and say, use that font. Let's make it smaller though. 14's a little small. And quite frankly, I don't like that color. So let's go ahead and go to dark blue. Oops, I did the fill. See? I don't want to fill the container. I want to do the font character. Double click to get it to work. Leave that color. And I want the dark blue. Okay. Make it a little smaller. Phone. Then I can hold in the Alt button and drag it down. This can be email. Hold the Alt button, drag it down. And you'll see it'll automatically know distance and spacing, which is a very, very nice tool here in Layout. This could be website. Click, drag it down to it's the snap function of the distance. Address or mail, right? Now, if you have these and they're all over the place, and as far as the layout is, we remember can hold Shift, select them all, and scroll down in properties until we get our alignment tools. So I could say, no, center align them right there, and even come down and do equal spacing, which is this distribute right here. In fact, I'm going to stretch this a little bit more, get a little bit more space there. And let's do it again. Shift select, go to our alignment tools, center align, and distribute equally on the vertical. Yeah. Now, this is where we have to think about some other important things, because I really don't want to use the word phone. I want to use the actual phone number. Why? Because, well, if this is going to be printed, it's nice to have the actual phone number there. Same thing goes with the actual email. Rather than using the word email, I'll just put now my school email here, double click it or hit Control A to select all so I can resize it. Okay. Website. What is the website? Well, if you have a website, you can put it in there. And you don't really have to. But if you have it, it's nice to put it in there. And finally, your physical address. And I'll just put something, I'll make something here to a
Excuse me.
yes.
So what I have a question. It's about website. What if we don't have a website of our own?
Well, at this point, if you don't have your own website, you could leave that off. You don't have to physically put there. But a good practice, I have a website. if you are looking to get a job somewhere and they're going to want to see your work. So you either have to have a portfolio site somewhere, or maybe it's YouTube, or maybe it's Vimeo, or maybe it's Instagram. But you're going to want to have something there, but you don't have to I'm just putting the website there just because I'm going to show you how to create a link and an icon for it. If you don't have that, you don't have to worry about it, really. Make sense? Excuse me. All right, so basic elements of contact information: phone number, email, a website if you got it, but this is personal contact. This is, again, not, contact me via, well, again, that's kind of tough because you can contact someone through LinkedIn now. You can contact someone through Facebook Messenger. You can, the phone number is as much of a text as it is an actual physical call. So very simple kind of, there's a lot of gray area there. And I'm actually looking here and I'm almost saying, okay, what is that font size? 18. What is that font size? 17. Okay, and what is this now? I'll go 18, just to try to get the fonts to be a little bit more similar in size and scale. Now, as I'm working here, I'm going to go ahead and just save as temporarily. You can see what it's saving as, but make sure we then go into the proper folder, InDesign, and I'm just temporarily saving it as resume. What I will not want is I will not want the InDesign file. It's like I've always said through every project so far. I didn't want Premiere Pro project files. I didn't want After Effects files because they don't hold anything. They're empty. So we're going to want to output this as an actual PDF eventually when you turn it in, even if it's the ePUB interactive hyperlink PDF. But as I'm working in the InDesign file form. All right, so now we got the element here for the contact information, but what are we missing? Well, we're missing contact icons. And you can see, you can search them out. I've known people in the past, especially professional designers that do resume design or online content. They'll make custom icons to represent this. And this is where I can find some simple basic elements for contact information. I don't care, I'll just choose this one, right? Right click, save image as, save it to a file, which means now I can open up my Illustrator, open it up, InDesign, icons for buttons. Here's my contact. I can hit open. And you see, I've got some icons here. Yes, I know, new for Illustrator. And I've got them ready to go. Now, I know these are probably going to be quite large, so I can actually minimize them a little bit. And I'm going to move them off the screen so I don't have the white behind it. Now, how do I get these actually converted into a good quality version of these in Illustrator or in Photoshop even? Well, in Illustrator, remember, with it selected, I could do an image trace, do a black and white logo. I could even tell it to ignore the white, but I'm not. When I'm done and I got a good vectored version, I can expand it, ungroup it, take the part I don't need and delete it. But then I'm also going to come here with them all selected and convert them back to being RGB or CMYK. So here I have, my icons, just that quickly, but I can design them. For example, do I need a messenger? No. I have my mail, I have my phone. I don't really need this. I don't really need this or this, right? I need my website if I'm going to use a website. Or actually, I guess this would be email. This would be traditional mail. This would be your location, right? These are universal symbols, and this could be the World Wide Web. That's what those icons represent, those 4 categories. Now watch how cool this is though. This is really neat. If I just take these from Illustrator, drag them down into InDesign, you'll see InDesign will pop up. Come on. Work for me. Ah, did that not work? Hold on a sec. Let's try that again. Let me go ahead and minimize that. Go back to Illustrator. This is where I might need to minimize my Illustrator a little bit. There we go. And watch what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take these guys, all 4 of them, and migrate them in. Oops, I didn't get the white. Let's try it once more. And you saw they're actually still a little big, so I'll just minimize them there and drag them in. Go ahead and hide my Illustrator. So now I can take these out of the way, put them over here. But look what happened when I brought them in. You see, it literally automatically grouped them when I brought them in here. So I'm going to want to right-click, ungroup them if I want to now affect and change these. Now they're still looking just a little bit large. Okay. And now I can come in here and say, okay, well, there's a white section here. What do I want that to be? Maybe I want that to be that light yellow color. Just holding shift, whoops, holding shift to select all the elements here so I can fill it all at once. Go. And what color? I'm going against orange, so maybe I want these to be filled with dark blue, light blue. I'll go dark blue. Whoops, I got these center points here. So you're seeing already how the software packages work together. Because these were created as vectors, no matter how much I scale, no matter how small this gets created, especially for the web, vectors can be saved for web and interactive documents. So as you zoom in on your phone or on your iPad or whatever, these don't get all pixelated. They stay their true high quality. Go, still look like, let's see if they need to be scaled down. Yep, let's just move them there. Scale down a little bit more. Remember, I'm focusing on design here. And what I'm going to do, though, is make sure we select these and right-click group them. We want them to be grouped. Okay? Each one is a group unto itself. Then I can just come here, select phone. Let's see, then I get my email. Then I get my website. And then I can put my map here. And just like that. Now, the last thing I want to do, though, rather than trusting my eyeball, I'm going to go to properties, align them at center, and evenly distribute them apart. But I got to be careful because this is not going to distribute equally. So I'm just going to leave that alone. So what do we got? Well, we've got profile pic, we've got our name and title ready to go, and we've got contact information buttons done. Pretty cool. Now, I can keep going here and starting to think about now these other things like about, experience, education, skills. But let me just show you a shortcut for that. Okay, and this time I'm going to use, well, let's see here. Let's go ahead and choose the rectangle tool. And I'm just going to put a box here. I'm going to right click on it. And let's see, display performance, cut, paste, type for the automatic. There's an automatic way of filling in your containers with font. Now, I could have done that very easily, or as I've shown you before, I could have just taken this one, dragged it down, taken my T tool, taken this out of there. Go to the properties and now play around with how I'm going to justify. So I'll justify left. There's also auto hyphenate that's typically activated. And this is way too big. Remember, wonderful world of most text that you print is like 11 points. So you can just see how much I'm focusing on the design here and how small I could do. So I could basically come here and I could say about, enter, and say something very simple like here, I am a hit the ground running multi-talented graphic artist and whatever, right? Media designer with over 20 years of experience. This is your elevator speech, you know? Forward to bringing my toolbox of talents into studio. Now you see it did automatically hyphenate. Well, if you click these things here, you can literally tell it to, where's it at? I think it's type, paragraph styles. Trying to think of where this is all located. Type. Text, hyperlink, cross-reference. Paragraph. Oh, there it is there. Hyphenate. Just deactivate the hyphen. Now, something you're noticing, which is really cool, or maybe you haven't noticed yet, but there's this big green button down at the bottom that says no errors. Well, InDesign is going to look for errors. So if you actually had, let's say, see how I just moved that and now I've got text that is no longer visible because I shortened up that box. Believe it or not, it says it's checking for errors. It will literally give me a big red dot there that'll say, oh, you've got text beyond the border of that box. So it'll actually test for errors you have that you may not know about. It'll test for links or buttons that are failing, meaning, hey, that email or that website you put in there doesn't exist or is not working properly, or you've got things that are overlapping. So it's kind of neat that it is doing this checking process as we speak. I'm just going to skip it back. Okay. So I can get my about, I can just alt drag down, change this to being, I don't know, experience, education, whatever I want. I'm just going to borrow something I've already got done here. See? Copy. So this is even something if you've already, I don't know, maybe you've already have a written resume. that you can very quickly here just copy and paste it from another, like Word document or something like that. Okay, so let's see, let's actually, now that I've got this, I'm kind of looking at some of the spelling errors I've got here. This is kind of redundant according to what I said already. So maybe I need to go back here and take my about. Oop, come on, get back there. All right. Then I could hold Alt, drag down. Now we're talking your education, right? And I'm just going to make this up. I'll say something like, let's see. $2,000 an MFA in information. Where, what, what was the program? What was the degree? What was the school? Where was it located? Stuff like that. Make one up here. Let's just say and this is where you just, now you're noticing this is all caps. This is upper, lower caps. This is all caps. Well, this is also back here to the different type settings. So if I go into character, or if I go into paragraph, or I could change case, see, title case. That allows me now to come in and tell what's upper and lower cases, which is what I want. Okay. And maybe even here, just give myself a tab. Or tell you what, go back and do that, change that around there. Let's put this in title, click case, type, change case, title case. Actually, it's not even supposed to be title case. It should be, now that I'm looking at it, it should be sentence case. There. All right. Yeah, I was going to do something here a little different. It's actually going to change the properties here and maybe make them just a little larger. So don't have to. Cleaning up the design and layout. I could even make that be orange instead of green or blue or whatever. So quickly, I've got my education there. Go ahead, Alt, drag down again, just like we've done. Again, I could do my work experience. I could do my skills. I could do software. I'll just put skills. And then this is where you can just run off your bullet points of what your skills are, multitasking. Communication. Team leader, things that you the job would be looking for. You know, blah, 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 whatever. I'm not going to spend much time. Okay. So again, we're just propagating and building. Obviously, my experience would have to have something like, again, the dates of the companies I work for. So I could definitely add more information there. I could spread these out a little bit more to give myself a little less cramping. Remember these neat little tools we have here. Hold the shift, go to properties, find your alignment tools. And even space them equally apart. I can come down here. Once I get to that, come to about here. And I could call this social and portfolio links, or social and professional links, or something, you know, that basically sums up what the heck this is all about. And this is where you can start thinking about your YouTube, your LinkedIn, your Vimeo, your Instagram, and come here and say, hey, social icons. Do an image search, and here you have them all, right? You've got your LinkedIn, you've got your, Facebook, you've got your Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, right? I mean, you've got all these links available to you here. And all you need to do, of course, is select this and then grab it. Save it into your folder, your icons for buttons. Let me see if I actually have, here I have social icons here. I'll just grab one that I've already done my trace on. You can even see here where I've got my contacts. So here, let's just grab these. Yeah, see, it's not dragging like it used to. Let's go back to InDesign. Go to Illustrator. Move that out of the way. Now remember, when you bring them in, now it's a question of, well, what colors should these be? Well, with them grouped, I might as well change them all at once. Just do that. But then we're going to need to ungroup them. Now, remember, these will probably need to be grouped. I'm just right-clicking here, group them all together. Otherwise, they'd be a mess. And I can drag them down right where I need them to be. There you go. Now, the only thing I haven't really provided yet is what about, like a video resume, which again could be a very simple button that I could simply come here and do. Watch this. Let's do rectangular frame. I'll do a rectangular frame here. Let's go ahead and fill it. Properties. With that, I could even come in here and change that frame down by changing some of the parameters, like rounding the corners and things like that. Or I could find, whoops, an actual button that says what I'm looking to make here. Double click. I guess it needs me to zoom in. Come on. Actually, tell you what, I'm gonna get rid of that, just use the text tool. Video resume. Eyedropper. Go ahead with that blue. Of course, I need to turn down the size of my font. Your resume. And remember, it gives me a fill, a color for the font or character, but then it also allows me to create a fill here, which I could do. So. And maybe I'll put that right here in the middle, just because I can. Something I've realized I have forgot doing is I have forgotten to separate these into their own layers. Plus, this is something that's interesting here is it's always justifying to top. Fitting. Right click, and I'm looking for the fill with placeholder. Oh, there's the fill with placeholder text. That's what I'm looking for. This is going to be in the type paragraph. Yes, no, maybe. No, not there. Styles, paragraph styles. Oh, like I say, when we show some of the basic videos here, and when we come back from the little break here, I'll show you where you can actually get a lot of other things we can do here. Because even here, watch what I can do. Now, again, I haven't done anything interactive yet. I'm just doing design. But when we get to stuff like this, you can actually come here to effects and watch this even. Let's do a bevel and emboss, and that will make it look like a button. Emboss, outer bevel, depth, soften. Oh, preview is off. Let's turn preview on. Not really like, let's see, off, on, object, effect, bevel, emboss. There it is, see? So just that quickly, it's given me a little bit of a bevel, and I can even do a drop shadow onto it, and that looks like now an actual button that says, hey, I'm a button. And we could do that with these other things as well. Object, effect, bevel, emboss, drop shadow. Okay. Come here. Effect, bevel, emboss, shadow. Now you see I'm doing these individually, and that's because I want them to behave individually. Not, I don't want the effect to be placed on all of them, because what it would do is literally it would kind of group them without me wanting to group them. Okay? But they are now looking more and more like, hey, I'm a button. I'm not just an icon. And you see the result. Okay? Pretty cool. I could do that with these up here as well. I'm not going to, because you can see, I'll show you where you can actually make these be interactive as well without having to make them look like a button. You can make them be a button, which means when you hover your mouse over it, it gives you that hand, that hyperlink element. Or if you're on a tablet or a cell phone, smartphone, you won't get that little hand, but if you click it, it will launch what you're going for. Okay, so I'm just going to hit Control S right now. I'm looking at the time. It says 12:20. Stop.